and welcome. I am Geentajali Prasad and I am the Vice President of Marketing and Growth at the Global Network for Zero or GNFZ, the world's premier net zero certification body. GNFZ provides independent third-party certification for buildings, portfolios, business operations, cities, communities, products, processes and more. Today I will be taking you through the Greenhouse Gas Protocol. At GNFZ, we leverage the Greenhouse Gas or GHG Protocol as a default methodology for calculating Scope 1, 2 and 3 emissions as part of a certification process so that our clients can make an accurate, data-backed plan and achieve net zero certification. I will go more into that later, but first we will go through what the Greenhouse Gas Protocol is, who uses it and why it is so widely respected. The GHG Protocol was launched in 1998 by the World Resources Institute and the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. It establishes a comprehensive global standardized framework to measure and manage greenhouse gas emissions from private and public sector operations, value chains, and mitigation actions. The protocol provides trusted accounting and reporting standards, sector guidance, calculation tools, and trainings for businesses and local and national governments. The GHG protocol is supported by 5 key principles. Relevance. The principle ensures that GHG inventory appropriately reflects the GHG emissions of the company or entity and serves the decision-making needs of users, both internal and external to the company. Completeness. This ensures accounting for and reporting on all GHG emission sources and activities within the chosen inventory boundary, as well as disclosing and justifying any specific exclusions. Consistency. This is to ensure the use of consistent methodologies to allow for meaningful comparisons of emissions over time. It encourages transparent documentation of any changes to the data, inventory boundary methods, or any other relevant factors at the time series. Transparency. This principle requires addressing all relevant issues in an accurate and coherent manner, based on a clear audit trail, as well as disclosing any relevant assumptions and making appropriate references to the accounting and calculation methodologies and data sources used. Accuracy. This ensures that the quantification of GHG emissions is systematically neither over nor under actual emissions as far as can be judged, and that uncertainties are reduced as far as practicable. Through this principle, achieving sufficient accuracy enables users to make decisions with reasonable assurance as to the integrity of the reported information. Who uses the GHG protocol? The GHG protocol applies to several entities including companies. A company might use the GHG Protocol corporate standard to measure and report its GHG emissions from its operations, including energy use, transportation, and waste management. The company can then use the data to identify areas where it can reduce emissions, such as improving energy efficiency using renewable energy sources or reducing waste. Governments. A government might use the GHG Protocol public sector standard to measure and report GHG emissions from its operations and public services, including energy use in buildings, transportation, and waste management. The government can use this data to identify areas of potential reductions, such as improving energy efficiency in buildings, promoting public transportation, and reducing waste. Businesses. Both publicly traded and privately held companies of all sizes and across every industry are encouraged to use the GHG protocol to measure and manage their emissions. It provides the accounting platform for virtually every corporate GHG reporting program in the world. In fact, in 2016, 92% of Fortune 500 companies responded to the CDP, formerly known as the Carbon Disclosure Project, used the GHG protocol. NGOs. Non-governmental organizations, non-profits, and other charitable institutions can also use the GHG protocol to assess their emissions and promote sustainable practices. Cities and municipalities. Urban areas can utilize the GHG protocol to measure and manage emissions from various sources within their boundaries, such as transportation, buildings, and waste management. Why use the GHG protocol? The GHG protocol establishes a comprehensive global standardized network to measure and manage greenhouse gas emissions from private and public sector operations, value chains, and mitigation actions. This framework helps companies prepare a GHG inventory that represents a true and fair account of their emissions using standardized approaches and principles. It also simplifies and reduces the costs of compiling a GHG inventory. Not only does it provide businesses with information that can be used to build an effective strategy to manage and reduce GHG emissions, but the GHG Protocol also increases consistency and transparency in GHG accounting and reporting among various companies and GHG programs. One of the more pertinent of the GHG Protocol is that it accounts for Scope 1, 2 and 3 emissions. At GNFZ, we define net zero as zero Scope 1, 2 and 3 emissions. This is why we decided to leverage the GHG Protocol as our emission calculation methodology. It is the logical choice to achieve actual net zero. GHG emissions scopes are designed to communicate which emissions are included in the accounting system of a company. This helps to benchmark the company's progress across industries and understand emissions accounting gaps. The GHG Protocol devised a system of scope-based classification to subdivide the direct and indirect sources of emissions for businesses. The GHG Protocol is most well known for these GHG emissions scopes. These scopes reflect the fact that companies create GHG emissions both directly in their offices and warehouses, and indirectly from the energy they consume and the GHG emissions their products produce across their lifespan. The three main scopes it establishes are as follows. Scope 1. Direct emissions from business operations. Scope 2. Power plant emissions from business energy requirements, their purchased electricity, steam, heat and cooling. Scope 3. Indirect emissions from upstream known as the supply chain and downstream, which entails consumer and waste stream emissions for products and services. Note that Scope 3 emissions or value chain emissions often account for more than 70% of a company's carbon footprint. Addressing them is a critical element of the path for reaching net zero. GHG Protocol tools enable companies and cities to develop comprehensive and reliable inventories of their GHG emissions and help countries and cities track progress towards their climate goals. These tools are cross-sector, meaning they are applicable to many industries and businesses, country-specific, and are specially customized for developing countries, sector-specific, though these are principally designed for the specific sector or industry listed, they may be applicable to other situations. And for countries and cities, these tools help countries and cities track progress towards their climate goals. Each tool reflects best practice methods that have been extensively tested by industry experts, and they enable companies to develop comprehensive and reliable inventories of the GHG emissions. Most companies will need to apply more than one tool to cover their emissions. The Greenhouse Gas Protocol has developed a wide range of standards for organizations of all types, including businesses, NGOs, countries, and cities. By applying the GHG Protocol standards, these entities can report their carbon footprints and reduce GHG emissions. Each standard addresses a unique need for different situations, including emissions reduction projects, reaching long-term emissions reduction targets, reporting corporate-level emissions, and reporting the emissions of communities in cities or other regional districts. These standards are Corporate Standard. The GHG Protocol Corporate Accounting and Reporting Standard provides requirements and guidance for companies and other organizations such as NGOs, government agencies, and universities that are preparing a corporate-level GHG emissions inventory. It covers emissions from direct and indirect sources, also known as Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3 emissions. GHG Protocol for cities. The Global Protocol for Community-Scale Greenhouse Gas Emission Inventories, or GPC, provides a robust framework to cities and communities for accounting and reporting city-wide greenhouse gas emissions. Mitigation Goal Standard. The GHG Protocol Mitigation Goal Standard provides guidance to countries and cities for designing national and sub-national mitigation goals. The standard also provides guidance for the development of a standardized approach for assessing and reporting progress towards climate goals at all levels. Corporate Value Chain Scope 3 Standard. The Corporate Value Chain Scope 3 standard enables companies and organizations to assess their entire value chain emissions impact and identify where to focus efforts aimed at reducing carbon emissions. Policy and Action Standard. The GHG Protocol policy and action standard is best suited for countries and cities and provides a standardized approach for estimating the greenhouse gas effect of policies and actions. Product standard. The product standard can be used by companies and organizations to understand the full life cycle emissions of a product, enabling them to allocate their efforts toward the greatest GHG reduction opportunities. Utilizing the product standard is often the first step companies take when transitioning to more sustainable products. Project Protocol. The GHG Protocol for project accounting is the most comprehensive, policy-neutral accounting tool used by several stakeholders of climate change for quantifying the greenhouse gas benefits of climate change mitigation projects. The GHG Protocol is the foundation for many other standards and initiatives. These existing frameworks opt to align with the GHG Protocol because it ensures organizations report comparable information with the highest quality data. Just a few examples of organizations that use the GHG Protocol include the Global Network for Zero's Net Zero certification. This is based on the GHG Protocol corporate standard and allows an inclusive calculation tool to calculate an entity's Scope 1, 2 and 3 emissions. The Global Reporting Initiative's GRI 305 bases its requirements on the corporate standard and the Corporate Value Chain Scope 3 standard. The Carbon Disclosure Project or CDP recommends reporting organizations use the GHG Protocol when responding to disclosure requests. For example, CDP's climate change reporting guidance refers to requirements like using a single base year for Scope 1, 2 and 3 emissions. The Science Based Targets Initiative's criteria require companies to follow the GHG Protocol's corporate standard, Scope 2 guidance and their Corporate Value Chain Scope 3 standard. The International Standards Organization made ISO 14064 complementary to the GHG Protocol's corporate standard, and the United States Environmental Protection Agency's Center for Corporate Climate Leadership's guidance aligns with the GHG Protocol. They have also created complementary resources to help organizations with their disclosures. Why does GNFZ leverage the GHG Protocol as a default methodology? At GNFZ, we are dedicated to eliminating market barriers to decarbonization through our incremental approach to net zero certification. Our net zero certification and our platform is based on years of market knowledge gained from green building and sustainability practitioners. Our founding team has decades of experience leading global decarbonization efforts, and they served in key leadership positions at the US Green Building Council and played a significant role in making LEED the world's premier green building standard and GRESB the de facto ESG benchmark. They have extensive experience setting sustainability standards and certifying implementation efforts. When GNFZ was first established, we conducted an independent, in-depth public opinion research study with policy elites and business leaders and analyzed the existing standards and certifications in the market to determine the unique value proposition they could bring to the industry to truly accelerate progress. What we identified was that people felt inundated by the certification programs, technologies and solutions that were available in the market. And we consistently heard that the industry most needed was better return on investment or ROI evidence to make the business case for net zero, as well as an incremental roadmap they could leverage to get there realistically over time. The GNFZ certification and platform was developed with this in mind. Instead of simply creating yet another standard, we decided to create a simple and data-driven platform that leveraged the already existing and industry-leading GHG Protocol as a default methodology. And because we are expanding to offer additional certifications beyond just buildings to include businesses, products, cities, processes and more, the GHG Protocol was a great natural fit since it is applicable to more than just buildings, since it scales to private and public sector operations, value chains, products, cities and policies. The GHG Protocol and GNFZ are well aligned. We adhere to the same principles of completeness, consistency, transparency and accuracy and follow the same steps of planning, identifying, calculating, reporting and verifying GHG emissions and removals. We use the same global warming potential or GWP values to convert different GHG gases into carbon dioxide equivalent units known as CO2e, and we both allow flexibility and adaptation and objectives of each organization or project and encourage continuous improvement and stakeholder engagement. At GNFZ, we also believe in the importance of collaboration and supporting the numerous global and regional standards that our clients are using to achieve their sustainability goals. Our clients have the flexibility to choose an energy efficiency or other industry best practice standard or framework to report their emissions, decarbonize and achieve certification. This is a key unique feature of our certification. We are rating system agnostic and open standard. We take the data inputs of our clients who are using other standards or frameworks and align them with the GHG Protocol to give them a calculation of their scope 1, 2 and 3 emissions. GNFZ strives to be a global resource to accelerate the incremental adoption of net zero strategies at a scale for faster and greater than what exists today. We know that immediate action is needed if we are going to be able to reverse course on climate change and achieve a regenerative world. We encourage you to spend some time on our website globalnetworkforzero.com, where you can take a deeper dive into our platform, register for updates and read about our perspectives on net zero. If you would like more information and to schedule an opportunity to meet with one of our staff members, please email us at team@gn-0.com.